Hey, Matt,
Hello.
how was your vacation?
It was wonderful.
Wish you could have been here for the good weather.
The first 2 days out there were really nice, and
Where,
then it got very, very windy.
uh-oh, where was there again?
San Francisco.
Oh, geez. Yeah, well, I'm sorry, I'm not feeling sorry for you.
I know you'll all be shocked, but everywhere we went was a park, I felt like. So
I,
the amount of San Francisco recreation and park facility signs we saw was it's amazing how much they do in a
Yeah.
community that size. But yeah, we had a really good time. My wife's uncle lives there, and so we had our own tour guides and place to stay. So the scary part was that my daughter, who's a sophomore in high school, fell in love with Cal Berkeley.
oh,
And
no. Whoa.
we were able to convince her to leave, so that was a good sign. But that's a very, very, very expensive school.
Yeah.
No, Joe. It's beautiful, but
Oh, yeah.
expensive.
Remember seeing all the eucalyptus.
I spent a Halloween night in Berkeley many years ago. And that was pretty bananas. I'm not gonna lie, that was crazy.
You probably still have your, bell bottoms and stuff in the attic, right?
I was driving a 1948 pickup truck home from the state of Washington, where I picked it up for $100.
Oh, geez.
Well, that's
And,
pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
except the starter didn't work. So you always had to park either on even or downhill so that you could pop start it.
Yeah.
Because you're parked uphill, you were kind of screwed.
Yeah.
I can't see everybody's face. Where do options? All I see is you, John.
I think you
Oh.
need
I'm
gallery
here.
view.
Don't share.
You got to go up to
Stacy.
the view and change it to
I think it's gallery
side by
views.
side or something, or gallery view.
Yeah.
View options. Fit to window. Oh, let's see.
Mine's right in the upper right corner of my screen. The standard side-by-side speaker, side-by-side gallery, etc.
Again, it says I'm viewing Matt's screen. I'm being recorded, and it says view options. So I'll click on options.
Oh, yeah, no, you're looking in the center of the screen. Go over to the far right upper corner.
Well, you're in the way. Oh, I see here.
Little thing is his view.
Let's see. Show tab overview, share. So I'm in the way up over right-hand corner.
Yeah.
And there's a little picture, an icon of a camera.
Okay.
And then above that is like show tab overview.
Okay, you're on a Windows machine, so it's gonna be a little different.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well,
Somewhere there should be.
there's 9 people around, I think. Oh, wait a minute.
Jim,
All right.
whoever's
Yeah.
camera, whoever's face you're able to see, right
Yeah.
above their face, there should be a single line, a little bit thicker line, 2 lines, and then if you click on like the 9 squares, that should give you the gallery view where you can see everyone.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. Yeah, that's okay. It's 7.
It's only Parks and Recreation meeting,
Actually, I believe this is my last one, if I'm not mistaken.
You are mistaken, because
Uh-oh.
the change in ordinance that new appointees won't be made until June. I'm
Really?
not sure if that's in time for June meetings or that
Yep.
the appointments take place in June. But they've
Hmm.
changed that process from the council members. So
Okay,
this will be Mark Sullivan's last meeting as the council appointee to PRFC, since he will no longer be on the council after tomorrow evening.
Okay,
So we'll have a new council appointee that'll be here at our next meeting.
all right.
Let's say the mayor's holding interviews for applicants through the rest of this month. And actually maybe even the early first week of May.
okay.
So Jim, you can't get rid of us that quickly.
Well, no, you can't get a read. I can't get a read.
We don't want to.
Me.
We're not, don't have that interest, you know.
Uh,
All right. Well, do we have a quorum yet? No.
We do have quorum.
All right. Yeah, we have a quorum. We should probably go ahead because it's after 7 o'clock. Matt, you've taken attendance?
I have.
All right. First order of business is approval of minutes from the last meeting. I would entertain a motion to accept them as submitted.
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes as submitted.
Right. Nick, thank you. A second?
I will second it.
oh,
All right, Joan, thank you. All right, any discussions, changes, additions, corrections? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
right.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. On to item number 1 of new business, direction of possible action on maintenance of Taylor Park pickleball courts.
So if you've been up to look at the pickleball courts 1 and 8, which are the closest to the entrance drive, have some peeling and some spots where there is no more color coat on portions of those courts. So I've solicited proposals, and you'll see some in the packet from Midwest Seal Coat as well as Holbrook Tennis Courts. And we went back and forth on what the best thing to do is. The quotes from Holbrook include, there's one quote that covers the entire 8 courts in fiberglass, which is a recommendation from Fred Kolkman, who has done a lot of our tennis court studies, if you remember way back in 2017 when we had those done, for those that were around then. Since then, Fred's been out to look at these courts and has made that recommendation. Midwest Seal Coat, John, could you mute yourself? I'm getting some feedback and I think it's coming from your. We'll see if that fixes the issue. Midwest Seal Coats proposed a different scope, and after my review of this, if we were to proceed with, I'm suggesting that we just look at courts 1 and 8. Joan, the feedback now appears to be coming from you. I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah, Joan, can you try muting yourself? Because you're the only
Okay,
one.
I'm not quite sure how I do that.
Should down on the lower screen should be a little microphone with the word mute, and you click on it.
Okay. Oh, that says Matt Anderson's. That says Matt's screen.
No,
I can mute her.
Oh, I
just-
see now. It's at,
Okay.
there you go. That's it. Good.
So my recommendation is that we resurface courts 1 and 8 utilizing the Holbrook number 2 quote. I'm going to pull that up just a second. And what this estimate of work is, or quote is to just for courts 1 and 8 to power wash and remove loose paint, to grind down and smooth out the net post footings, and then do a fiberglass mesh over all of courts 1 and 8, and then put the resurfacer product down. My concern is that if we don't do this, those courts are going to continue to look in disrepair. The other 6 courts are in good shape, so it's hard to find a fault with the initial installation since those 6 courts are in good working order. There's just something, I don't know if it's that these are at the end of the slope and that there's more water passing over these courts and that's part of the problem. But in conversations with Fred Kolkman as well as Kyle Holbrook with Holbrook Tennis Courts, they both are confident that this will address our concerns and that it'll be a very subtle difference between the 6 courts that are in good shape and these 2 courts. You won't really notice a significant difference unless you're looking for it after this work is done. They will not be able to do this work until this fall. So it gives plenty of time to kind of alert users that we will be closed for about 2 weeks to get this work done on those courts. We could keep the 4 courts farthest away from this area open while we shut down the other 4 courts for the work to occur. Funding, you'll remember we had capital funds appropriated for Lakeview Tennis. My recommendation is that we do this work this year and that we don't get further behind in making these repairs and at least allow this repair work to happen this year. And then in the budget process, ask for the funds we need for the Lakeview courts to be done in 2023. Happy to answer any questions or clarify anything.
Yeah, these courts are not that old, are they, Matt?
They were installed in 2018.
Yeah. Okay. Jim, you had a question.
I do. Does the high school, are they involved in reserve time or any kind of reservations? Is this part of their program at all?
No, these courts are extensively used by the pickleball community, which at this point doesn't include the high school. It tends to be not solely older adults, but that is the bulk of the user group.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah, Mark, you have your hand up. You're muted.
Yeah, I want to go back to the install. Have you contacted, who was the installer and have you contacted them? It just doesn't seem right that after 4 years that these would be peeling like this. I'm just wondering if there's some ability to claw back from the installers something.
We're outside of the warranty on the tennis or on the pickleball court work itself. We struggled immensely with this group. It is, in my 15 years of being a Parks and Recreation director, they were the least fun subcontractor that I have ever worked with. We struggled to get them back initially to do some repair work. It was frustrating to me as it appeared they'd never worked on a municipal project before, and I know that wasn't the case, but with the questions they asked and some of that. So that if we were to put out tennis court work, we will be requesting in the future on bid work, requesting qualifications to go through a pre-qualification because we would not want to see that contractor again. They were an out-of-state subcontractor for a locally based general contractor that had the overall project that included the basketball court, and the pickleball courts.
So why aren't you going after the contractor? It seems to me that, right, the fact that you've got 8 courts and only 2 are bad, that says it's an install issue, right? And I'm not sure how the contract was let, but it would seem to me that the GC is on the hook for this and let him go after the sub. Have you talked to Larry about this at all?
No. And we have a legal review meeting coming up. I can put this on the agenda and get some feedback. My review of the contract language was that it was a limited warranty and I didn't see anything at least with the subcontractor's work, that we could go back. Whether there's recourse with the general to force the sub, that's something that I'll have to broach with Larry.
Yeah, I hear you. It just 4 years I mean, those courts were expensive from what I remember. Yeah.
Well, and typically, the general ultimately has responsibility because they're the they have the oversight, and they have the responsibility. Their due diligence is to make certain that the subcontractor does it correctly. And so from an insurance perspective, the general is really the sharp point of this stick. They're the ones that I think need to be challenged.
Yeah. David, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering because in the we have a comment here with the Midwest Seal Code about power wash, remove concrete around 5 net post and install new concrete. And is that the same as grind down and smooth out net post footings?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure that
Same
we're
general
talking apples to apples here.
All right. Yeah, Blake.
So I was sharing the pain with Matt on this project with the subcontractor. They were ridiculously terrible. I will say the general went way above and beyond. I felt what they would typically be required to do to try and get these guys to respond. So I don't fault the GC. I haven't seen it, so I don't know exactly what the issues are, but it is weird that 6 are perfect and 2 are failing. So I guess, Matt, I would, maybe you can explain further what the 2 court experts that you've talked to have said about that. I mean, the 2 guys that Matt has gone to are the best in the business in terms of court repair. So I would trust what they say.
They're concerned that we spec the wrong surfacer product, that it wasn't the most flexible option, and that there's some blistering and peeling of the paint surface on those 2 courts. They haven't given me a reason why those 2 are different other than the other 6, other than they're on the downside of the slope. So that the only theory that's been thrown out, and I don't know that there's a way to verify, is that there's just more water passing over those last 2 courts, and that's why they've had paint issues. It doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, but it is maybe the most realistic way to explain what's happening.
All right. Yeah, I might just comment, Blake. I understand that even if the general contractor has been good about it, it still is a responsibility issue. So if I'm a good parent, my kid goes and does damage, I'm still liable no matter what. And I think if you want to maintain a good, it's at least worth pursuing. I would think that this might be, might propose that we, that we table this discussion to give you a couple of weeks to just check and see, even.
And I'm happy to do so. There's going to be a lot of finger pointing because although we know the consultant that did the design work, he's no longer with the firm that we hired to do the design work.
Yeah.
The project manager for the general contractor has retired. And so a lot of the parties involved in this project, have changed. So I will pursue what we can. I will include the city attorney in the discussions and report back in May with what I was able to find out. But I'm not optimistic about what responses I'm going to get.
No, but I just think in listening to the comments from the committee that it's money we don't have. And everything we spend is money we typically don't have. And it's probably worth the due diligence, particularly since we're not looking to get this done in the next 2 weeks or something like that. So I don't know how the rest of the committee feels, but that would be my suggestion.
My other concern is that the remedy suggested by the subcontractor is probably not going to address the issue long term. But we'll fight those battles a later date.
Other comments? No comments? Well, I'd entertain a motion to, was it to table this or to defer?
Yeah, let's, I'll make a motion to defer action until after the legal review is complete.
All right, there's second to that motion?
I'll second that, but is there, do we add to the motion that we request that Matt checks in with legal, or how would we do that? I'd like to, or Matt, are you just gonna go ahead and do that? and then
Yeah,
we-
I've got that,
Okay,
I've got that direction.
okay,
Yeah,
then
I
I'll
mean-
second the motion as it was made.
All right, yeah, because Matt's already done his vacation. He's not skipping out on this one, you know?
No.
All right, so we have a motion on the table. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
I-
Opposed? All right, motion carries. And Matt, you know what to do, and we'll just, this will put it off for 2 weeks, but hopefully you can have this discussion by then. All right, moving on to item number 2, Penny Klein Park ADA proposal.
So this is kind of our second option, and as I've thought about this after we reviewed initially, you'll remember we were talking about some telephone poles, and I just kind of became concerned with, you know, I think there's a long-term vision for athletic field improvements and making this a viable site for future events, as well as accommodating, you know, the current use from the soccer club. And Blake and I talked, and Blake can explain this more, but we felt this is a very Middleton response to the problem by looking at berms instead of these tilted over telephone poles. And then also the addition of curb stops along the edge of the parking lot to kind of serve as a vehicle deterrent, and then the addition of raised planted berms to deter vehicles from entering the athletic space. And I'll let Blake kind of talk a little bit more about this kind of alternative design.
All right,
Yeah,
Blake?
so that first approach, as Matt mentioned, was more of a hard barrier, which, you know, certainly would work. It's an aesthetic that may not be desired. So the second approach here is looking at a more naturalistic barrier. Will it prevent 100% of clowns from driving in? Maybe not. If someone is really determined, there is a way, but it's definitely a more visually appealing approach. It's probably going to be a little bit more on the expensive side, but that was all predicated on being able to get some of the poles free or highly discounted from utilities. So, you know, I think this is a very classic approach to framing in a space. You see it, you know, of course, on the edges of commercial and residential developments. So it's nothing unique to Middleton, but I think Matt is right. This is a much more feel-good approach to solving the problem.
Are there issues with increased maintenance with the plantings, and or you worried about foot traffic trampling through bushes and stuff?
No, Matt, if you can zoom in a little bit, I did space out the berms conceptually to allow for foot traffic between them.
Okay.
And it also adds some interest in the landscape as you kind of weave in and out of those berms. But the maintenance issue, yes, there will be an increased level of maintenance. You know, there's going to be edging around it. There'll be weeding. That said, it's possible that we could find a friends group or a volunteer group to help with that, or it could be a contracted service for this site. So there's a couple of different options to explore.
Right. Matt, what's your take on that question?
I think one of the things that we're going to want to do is if we go down this route, we're going to want to involve people in our staff, Mark Wagner, Tony Crom, that have the education background in terms of what kind of plants could be used that minimize the maintenance. If we do go this route, I became concerned about a harder approach and what that aesthetic looks like, and it maybe takes away from the site because it was more of a hard approach. Maybe I'm too concerned about that, but it's a concern, but I'm more concerned about the response of the utility poles and what that looks like from the public as well.
David?
I was just going to suggest that maybe we could get a few rocks added in there with the plants. They do a nice job of deterring vehicles, and they have a nice look to them.
Yeah, I think they'll do better with foot traffic not being there too. Yeah, all right. Now, Blake, you mentioned about, being more cost or more expensive. What are we talking about in terms of kind of differentials or?
Well, so I ran a quick estimate. If you were to bid this out for a landscape contractor to come in, build the berms, plant all the material, there's somewhere between 75 and 80 trees, just as it's conceptually shown. So then you add in some ground cover. A typical landscape tree in a public bid setting is between $400 and $500 a piece. That's with a warranty period. Now, it's possible that if this is timed right, the city could order a bunch of tree material. Matt, you're probably going to cringe at this, but it's possible that this could be a combination of city staff and or volunteer effort to get installed. Maybe we recruit the soccer club or high school students, Boy Scouts, we can get creative about it. But if we just do some quick math, let's say 80 trees, Mark's going to laugh because I'm looking at my calculator, but you take 80 trees at $400 a piece, that's 32 grand. That doesn't include building the berms or the mulch or any of the other smaller plant material that we'd want to stick in there. So I could see this approaching 50 grand pretty quick.
You could also phase it in over a number of years. You could build your, I think the incorporation of rocks is a good idea from David, that you could minimize some of the planted areas, reduce the number of planted areas and get this down. And then, a phased tree planting approach over, 2 to 3 years could make it more palpable from a budgetary standpoint as well.
The rocks aren't free, but
No,
but also if you're willing to wait a little while, maybe get smaller trees put in earlier, smaller trees being cheaper and easier to plant.
The trade-off is, do you want that immediate satisfaction of a larger tree? You're going to pay that $450 for it, but if you're buying bare root or containered plants, you're probably in the 150 to 200 range per tree. So that gets you a lot farther along.
Yeah.
Matt, can you remind us where the funding is coming for this, or is not come yet? Or
we have 35,000 in this year's budget for ADA work, and that's where kind of Blake's time. I mean, not anywhere near all of it, but that's where the contract with Parkitecture to do this design work would be paid. And then if we move forward with a phase 1 project this year, and I'm curious on Blake's thought, phase 1 could be concrete curb stops to address the immediate issue, getting those in place as at least a first option, and then additional berming and rocks could be future budget requests.
what's the status with the paths?
That's going to have to be, we're going to have to bid that work out. That's going to have to be a future. I never envisioned that being this year.
Okay.
Have you, Matt, have you talked to the town about the curb stops?
I have talked to a member of their park commission about this project, and that once we had adopted a plan, that we would be sharing that with them to kind of get their feedback and thoughts.
Okay, good.
And they're aware of the issue and are dealing with it, complaints and concerns about vehicle access from their parking lots as well.
Right.
I think you could price out some razor wire or something. All right, other comments, questions? I think
Yeah,
you,
Oh, hi, John. I'm Molly from Middleton United, and we use the 4 of these fields over at Penny Klein. And Blake, thank you for this concept. I have a couple questions, or maybe just one question, then a couple comments. The space, if you're looking at the map on the right, there's a gap between the brims. Will there be the ability for vehicles to access that, or is that just, I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, that's the gap there.
Yes. So you're wondering why I left that very, very empty?
Yeah.
So that peninsula between the 2 parking lot lobes has been allocated for a future restroom shelter building.
Okay.
A few years ago, there was actually a design and bid project that went out and came in substantially over budget, but all of the utilities are stubbed in for that. So I think Matt and I both have a hope that eventually that project will happen. I think that would really benefit the park, but in the interim, yeah, maybe that's the place for some additional rocks, so that we're not inhibiting future development.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. And then I know, I don't want to speak on behalf of the entire board and Middleton United, but we have 1,000+ players in our club, and I think that we could easily have some sort of volunteer day where the club comes out and helps however we need to at Penny Klein. And I'm not saying we need to like install the trees or anything, but however that looks from the city standpoint of helping out with maintenance out there. And then I know our board has talked quite extensively, and we've allotted some money in our budget itself to also help in a field development area. So I think this is something that the club is really interested in and wants to be a part of, because we do use these fields every season. So I, just putting that out there to you guys as well, that the club is willing to put some money towards this as well.
well, thank you very much for that offer. Certainly any help is appreciated. Other comments or questions? Matt, I had a question about your number 4. I thought last time we talked, we were sort of not necessarily in agreement or determined that we don't need this extra handicapped access out to the highway.
So
dual
that goes
entrance
to the
onto the
drop
baseball.
off.
Yeah.
That goes to the drop off area, not the highway.
Okay. Well, so
And-
that's okay.
And that's providing the ADA access for the baseball field.
All right. So, but what is 5? That's also ADA access, right?
Yeah, 5 gets you access to ADA stalls, which you currently do not have for the baseball diamond. So there's nothing at all remotely compliant about that diamond, unfortunately.
Okay. All right, other comments, questions?
If I could ask a question from Molly and Eric's perspective, your take on the berm tree, more natural approach as opposed to the utility poles. Do you guys have an opinion from the soccer club on that?
I think that we're happy with any sort of solution that deters people from driving on the fields. And I think somebody said it earlier that you're never going to deter everybody, and they're going to find a way. But I think this is a great step in the right direction. And I think long-term with the curbs there, you're just minimizing the amount of appeal to actually driving out on those fields. So when I first looked at the layout of it, I couldn't quite understand what it was, but now I see the layout. So that makes more sense to me. And, I'm not an expert at it, so I trust you guys. And I think it's definitely a step in the right direction of maintaining those fields long-term. So
I would like to just put my 2 cents in, and that is, as a parent who has watched many soccer games, any place that you can just have trees without berming would be beneficial from a shade perspective. Although I like the idea of the berm, but, you know, providing shade as well along those sidelines would be most welcome.
Okay. All right, other comments? I think, Matt, if you're looking for action, you're looking for to approve of the concept plan.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, PRC, the commission approved the previous design, so we would have
Yeah, I think
to,
we did.
we would have to probably take action to more accept of this design. I'm not sure the correct terminology.
Works. I move that we like this one better, kind of thing, you mean?
Right,
You
yeah,
want to supersede, right?
yeah.
And refresh us on the differences. It's just the landscaping part of, because the
It's-
paths all look the same.
The paths are almost all the same. This is just it's a softer, more natural landscape deterrent than the kind of the hard engineer, well, not engineered, but the proposed utility pole option was a more kind of hardened version that wasn't gonna add to the natural beauty of a park like this solution will.
I might add a friendly before you guys take action here. For those of you who know me, I don't like to draw straight lines, yet these paths are as straight as they can be. So with this solution of the trees, I might suggest we weave the path kind of in and out and make it a little bit more organic on the sidelines. I think that would make it a little bit more interesting. And to Mark's point, maybe we can feather that in and get some shades and seating opportunities. So this is probably not the final alignment. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
So you could provide a meandering pathway and berm and not have a problem between those two?
Right, yep.
Okay.
And maybe they aren't all berms. Maybe the berms are only in the strategic locations where we have the worst intrusion opportunities. We have the other areas that are just flat and mulched for seating and shade.
With a big rock in the middle.
With a big rock in the middle.
John, you're on mute. Picnic benches, or park benches would work well in here too.
Yeah, you're still on mute, John.
Sorry, my phone was going. I would entertain a motion, I guess, if you think this is
There.
worthy of merit. Jim, you have a question?
I do have a question. The berm, I think maybe Mark was hitting on this as well, but how much additional value do you get out of a berm if you have the trees in the same area, presumably preventing people from driving in? I assume the berm adds quite a bit of additional cost. Does the berm serve a much greater function of people driving in, or will the trees be satisfactory in doing that? That would be my question.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the advantage of a berm is it will allow you to space your trees a little bit farther apart, which means a lower quantity. The downside is as we talked about earlier, there would be increased maintenance and pulling weeds, keeping invasives out. If you just had lawn with tree spacings, then conceivably the maintenance crew can just continue their mow, blow, and go in this space instead of having more string trimming time or higher maintenance requirements. So there is kind of a balance, and maybe we look at, like I said before, strategically placed berms and the rest of it's open with tree canopy.
And Jim, younger trees can be driven over.
Yeah.
Don't ask me how I know.
Oh, that's
Trees spaced 7 or 8 feet apart can be driven between too, so.
That's true too.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd like to make a motion to approve this newest iteration of the plan with the possible addition of meandering trail along with the berming and planting in rocks and possible benches to be added as seen fit. Does that
Do
work?
Okay, you're happy with that motion? I mean, we could be more general too and just say
Um,
the
if you-
naturalist concept is,
Is that Rick, Matt, more matchless concept? Can I say that? Is that good?
So I've got a motion by Shaw to approve the plan with the addition of benches, rocks, and to meander the path where appropriate.
Trees too. Rocks, trees, berms,
Rocks, trees, berms.
kitchen sink.
okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
All right, Mark, you have a second. Okay, any further discussion?
So I do, the motion includes berming. Our motion is to include the berming.
I added trees and berm to what I'd said previously.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think the whole point is we don't want it to be exclusively all berms or exclusively no berms or something, just, you know, a nice mixture of all above. All right, other questions, comments, discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
I'd
Yeah.
just add before the motion that next steps would be to go back to staff, talk about the phased approach, how we could control costs, how we could incorporate a volunteer workday, which I didn't cringe at. I think it'd be a great step towards making this reality, and work with Blake on some cost concepts once we have a plan to bring back for further discussion.
Yeah, I mean, that's my presumption is that we're approving this as a concept to be funded, if ever. All right. Anything else? All right, hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, thank you. We have a new concept. All right, to item number 4, vehicles. I'm not sure why we're getting this, Matt, and I'm not sure, I read it through, I'm not sure what to do with it.
So what I'll highlight here is that each department that has a hand in the vehicle fleet, which we, as you can see, have several vehicles that are assigned to parks, have been asked their committees to review and make a recommendation to Finance and Council. And some of this is due to a lot of community interest in pursuing electric vehicles. And I think the public works staff that are managing the fleet have looked where possible to replace with electric, and have laid out that, you know, there aren't a lot of great electric options right now that meet our needs, and that the staff and myself remain committed to introducing electric vehicles when appropriate, and when an appropriate vehicle that matches our needs aligns with the replacement schedule. So.
Well, Ford just announced their new 150 F-150 electric, so there you go.
Yeah,
There's bed size requirements that we have, and from what I've been told from our public works staff, that the current release, at least the last I knew, doesn't meet our specification for bed size. I'll leave it at that.
What is the term?
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was confused by the term lightning that keeps showing up in there. It's an F-150 Lightning.
That's their electric vehicle.
Oh, okay, that's it, their name.
Truck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I would just be cautious here. So this is, I think, a reaction to maybe a half a dozen people being very vocal about Middleton's commitment to sustainable vehicles, electric vehicles, all this, put it this way, movement away from fossil fuels.
Mhm.
And I think probably the issue that we have is that the want is way out in front of what's practically available. And there's a sense among these individuals that we should wait until some of these things are practically available. And I think we just need to make sure that I think my assumption, and forgive me if I'm assuming too much, I think the city is more than willing to go down a non-fossil fuel direction if an adequate replacement is available at a reasonable cost. In the absence of that, I don't think it's a practical reason to delay continuing on the vehicle replacement plan that we're already on. Because, you know, just so everyone's aware, it wasn't too long ago that we were struggling to keep vehicles on the street. And so it's important that, you know, we continue to cycle the vehicles out when they need to be cycled out and not wait until the perfect electrical vehicle is available or other alternative fuel source. Right. So there has to be a bit of pragmatism here.
Sure.
That we do things on the schedule that already exists and doesn't impact, you know, the throughput cycles that we need on our vehicles.
And in one area, just to highlight, we are purchasing a electric string trimmer, an electric leaf blower, an electric push mower to put into operation this year. And my hope is that we have good results and that they work for our needs and that we're able to purchase more of those in the future and abandon gas versions of those equipment as we cycle out and replace them.
Yeah.
I'd love if there was a commercial grade mower, but for our needs, but there is not yet an 11-foot commercial grade mower, you know, that we can put into replacing our 11-foot mowers.
No, but in comment to Mark and responding a bit, I guess, I mean, the fact is this is a list that spreads out for the next 10 or 12 years. So clearly in the process, things are going to change and change a lot faster. I don't think anybody's under the presumption that exactly what's listed here right now was locked into place for 10 years. And I think that I agree with you, Mark, that we shouldn't be buying when it's not appropriate to buy. On the other hand, keeping the options open and without, you know, violating the schedule that's there, which seems like a decent schedule, that when the opportunities arise and when the times change and the equipment becomes available, that we lean in that direction. That's certainly how I would feel.
My only point is that, so Matt, if you just look at that first vehicle, right? The F550 bucket truck.
No, you're breaking up.
Right. So there's a need for that last summer, and it was ordered last summer. There are members of the community that would want us to stop the purchase of that vehicle right now and wait until an electric vehicle is equivalent is available. My only point is that we can't afford to wait. Right. These vehicles need to be cycled out now. And if it takes us 15 years to get it through till an electric vehicle could be possible, then that's part of the process, right? This whole vehicle replacement cycle for some of these vehicles, it's long-term.
Okay.
And if we need a vehicle in 2022, we can't wait till there's an equivalent electric in 2025 to get the process moving. There's an immediate need, and we have to fill it immediately, regardless of whether it's, you know, carbon-based fuel or something else.
Yeah, no. Well, thank you for clarifying that. Was not aware of the immediacy of this one. That's all.
My comment on this would be that whereas I love the idea of having electric vehicles, it's exciting to see this Lightning become available, but I am always hesitant to buy into a new technology that is just emerging. As far as Ford and electric vehicles, we haven't seen a whole lot, and especially on the scale of what the Lightning is going to be doing. And I would not probably want to be the first one to try it out or something close to it.
Yeah, there's, what do they say in IT, right? You don't want to be on the bleeding edge.
No.
The one question that I've asked throughout this process is the city of Middleton funded in a way that it could make a significant mistake in purchasing electric vehicles? And some of you know the answer to that question much more in depthly than others. From my perspective, that if we went out and bought a vehicle that didn't meet our staff's needs or wasn't reliable, that's a significant impact to our operation. And I hope that's not the case. And I want to see us using electric vehicles. I maintain my own yard with all electric equipment because it's a size and scale that I can do. I think we have a size and scale of massive amounts of acreage that we have to take care of, and we need equipment that's reliable. And the work that's been done to put this vehicle replacement plan in place to ensure that our staff has quality equipment, we're in a really good place, and we don't want to backslide from the hard work that's happened to put us where we're at currently.
And replacing some of those 2-cycle engines, even though they're small, those things put out more nasties than the trucks. So I think we can do an awful lot with technology that is in hand and readily available, and we know works.
Yeah.
So where are we headed for this, Matt? Is this just for our information or?
I was asked that we make a recommendation to finance and council.
Well, I'm hearing two issues that can be conjoined. One is that we don't want to be postponing what's critical equipment for your operations. And at the same time, we want to move towards more less fossil fuel stuff, but we want to do it in a thoughtful and reasonable manner. And I think those two are not incompatible with one another. I mean, if I were to make a motion, it'd be to move that we think the plan is good and that it should move ahead with purchases regardless of availability, but should always be looking towards new technology when the options are available and seem appropriate.
Yeah, I think that the two pickups we need to move on. And I get the idea we're trying to align with Ford equipment and not mix Ford and GMC. Is that correct?
Just
Yeah,
Ford.
they've standardized the fleet to for ease of maintenance and replacement parts. So
Yeah.
we went to John Deere for mowers, and we went to Ford for the pickup trucks.
Yeah, so I think we ought to just move forward with cutting. I mean, even F-150s are not super readily available.
And they're being priced at a premium because of that. I just think, you know, this is all great to do and it's a nice to have, but we need to be practical about this. If the lightnings are not available, then we need to stick with the carbon-based vehicles. Yeah.
And maybe we can still get some reasonable municipal discounts on those.
Yeah, I guess I don't see that we're not in agreement. I think the point is that I don't hear anybody speaking against those in the future if they're reliable and cost effective. But at the moment, the needs are here and we need to move forward and not wait for something that's not there and not tried and true yet. I mean, Matt, we can turn that into a motion, or you can just take that advice. I mean, is there any concern or issue with the vehicles and the scheduling of the vehicles, regardless of whether they're gasoline or electric?
No, and I think that the city mechanic does a great job in determining, right? So part of it, just so everyone's aware, the vehicle replacement plan used to be decentralized, right? So Matt would decide when his vehicles needed to be replaced. Sean would decide when his vehicles needed to be replaced. Every city manager would decide when their vehicles needed replaced. The council put a stop to that a few years ago, saying, no, wait a minute, the city mechanic's going to make this decision based on whether the equipment itself is ready to be replaced, as opposed to an arbitrary replacement schedule, right? So we have police vehicles that typically we would swap out every 3 years. Sometimes they need to go after 2, sometimes they need to go after 4. And so that's kind of where things have gotten to. So vehicles get replaced because of need, not because of arbitrary time frames.
Yeah.
Right. So as an example, right, that you have a skid loader that's scheduled to be replaced in 23. If the chief mechanic says, you know what, that skid loader's got another 2 years on it, then it'll go back to 2025.
Mhm.
And he does a really good job of involving my feedback and input as well as the park foreman's input on those years and where we can push something or where we need to replace something sooner. And I think the process is as good, if not better, than anywhere I've been.
All right, well, we're back to how we craft a motion on this one.
I think you said something earlier, John, that I've heard other committees do, that you said there's no concern with the current replacement plan.
Yeah, no concern. We just want to emphasize the process looking forward to trying to embrace the new technology when it's viable.
So
I would make that a motion and then you can take it apart if you want. Yeah, Jim.
I think we have to be a little careful about not looking like we're committed to a non-fossil fuel option. We don't want to box ourselves into a corner where some of the members of the community, which are very, very strongly want non-fossil fuel vehicles, to point back to this and say, well, no, you folks said that you wanted to include non-fossil fuel vehicles in the future.
Well, I guess I don't see a problem with that. I feel pretty
Okay.
strongly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think as long as you word it so that it states that, we want to go ahead with what we need now, but in the future, we will take that into consideration,
Okay.
as long as it's worded correctly.
Right.
I mean, thank you.
Okay.
That's kind of clarifying what I was trying to say, but you said it better. But
Right, exactly. Yeah.
it's we think the plan here is good and we should move ahead with the plan as is. And as new technologies become available and viable, we should look towards those as options.
Okay. I'll second that.
As options. So,
But I
yeah.
think what's necessary is that this plan does not preclude the acquisition of carbon-based fueled vehicles if no viable,
Mhm.
workable solution, I don't know how you phrase that, right? If there's
Yeah.
nothing that meets the needs of the department, if an electric vehicle does not meet the needs of the department,
Yeah.
that a fossil fuel vehicle is acceptable.
Well, I think I presume that was in the memo or the motion when I said that we approve the plan as presented.
No,
With-
because somebody's going to take this plan and say, you know what, the only thing that's available is an electric alternative. And I think that what we're really trying to say is, yes, this plan is acceptable in the apps. Should these vehicles be readily available and equivalent to the fossil fuel vehicles we have currently? Right, that's the assumption. But if neither one of those conditions apply, then we have to have the flexibility to stay with fossil fuel vehicles.
Right. I would avoid the word equivalent because maybe they'll be better.
But it's satisfactory to the needs of the
needs.
department.
That's right. Yeah, I wouldn't compare to apples and oranges. I'm just saying that if future technology gives things that are acceptable, that they can do the job as needed to be done, it's not whether it's better than or worse than or simply different than, but that we don't hamper current purchases because we don't have the new technology.
I mean, I can certainly see cases where having an electric vehicle with a nice AC output is going to be very handy. But we need to replace these things more than we need that.
All right, well, we still have a motion on the table.
I'm feeling
think-
like we're all in agreement. I think it's just how it gets worded.
Yeah,
We have a second too.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a motion and a second, and what I have is that there's no concern with the replacement plan and to embrace new tech when viable.
And meeting the needs of the department. I don't like viable out there by itself because different people have different opinions on that.
all right, well, I'll accept that amendment if my seconder will.
Yeah, I seconded it and I'll accept the amended language.
Okay, let the minutes reflect the discussion. That's all. All right, any further discussions, questions, comments? All right, hearing none, we have the motion on the table. All in favor, say aye.
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 Uh,
Opposed? All right, thank you. That ends our, oh no, we have one more item on the agenda now. Item number 5 is the park reservation policies review.
And I'll start this off by saying this wasn't ready for prime time, and I apologize. I thought we'd be farther along and we're not. So
We defer.
Yeah, I would accept the
I'll make that
motion.
motion. I'll make that motion. We defer, and I'm happy to work with Matt on rewriting it
All right,
if Matt wants any assistance.
I'll be
I'll
in
go
touch.
ahead.
David.
I'll go ahead and second the deferral because I think we need time with this one. All right. Any other, we have motion and a second, any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor of the deferral, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, great, thank you, we deferred. Now, just, Mark, I want to say thank you because we won't see you again, right?
That's correct.
I'd like to say that's sad, or I won't say it's happy, you know, anyways. It'll probably be a relief on your life, so. Anyways, it's been really a pleasure from my standpoint, and I think from the rest of the committee, so.
Absolutely.
So have a good vacation in Hawaii, wherever you're going, and don't come back.
I think could we put that in a motion to
Thank Mark
express our
for his time,
appreciation?
service, and his
Yeah,
wonderful
comment.
advice.
I also want to share, Mark, I've really appreciated your involvement with this commission and your ability to be a voice at the next level, both at finance and council for the things that came out of this commission, and as staff really appreciate that and hope that future council representatives on the commission are able to do the same. So thank you.
You're very welcome, guys. I
Thank you.
enjoyed the last 12 years being on this committee.
It's great, so.
It's been a wild trip.
It's good. We'll continue without you, but I wish you were here. So anyways, thank you all again. All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Mark seconded.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you all. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Take care, Mark.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
take care.